All right, we are live. Gonna give it a second here. Let people join in. We're chilling. We're stealing our parents' beverages.
Water for me tonight.
Dude, it's the first week that I've tried these seltzer drinks, but if it's healthier, hey, I'm all for it. But
Definitely healthier.
Yeah.
Oh, I just accidentally popped up on our live feed here so I can listen while we're streaming.
There you go. There you go.
Notification popped up. I was like, oh. Then I was like, shit, now I hear my echo.
Yep. We got our guest queuing up here.
Perfect.
Let's see. Do you want to bring him on now so we can talk to him a little bit, or do you want to talk about our weekends prior to getting him on here?
Yeah, we can bring him on and then talk about it after.
Okay.
That's
Sounds
fine.
Good. Cody, you ready to come on, or are you guys still testing your audio? Okay. Let's see here. Let's test it real quick with Cody. Cody, can we hear you now? Okay. I think they were still working on audio. So, dude, tell me about your weekend, because I don't think you got out. You did get out.
No, I didn't. I didn't do anything. I've been just hanging out. I worked Saturday, then I had a wedding yesterday. I could have went out. I was going to go out with Jeff, but then we had some plans that we had to do, and today the weather was crap, so I just been hanging out and got stung by a bee yesterday, so I've been kind of out of business for the last 36 hours.
Guys doing your lawn and get stung in the face by a bee.
The worst part is I didn't even get into it. Like, I got one strip done, and then all of a sudden I go around a bush and whack right in the air. I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me. Run in the house, throw some baking soda on it, freaking crying hysteria because who knows if I'll die from a bee sting, because I have family members that are like deathly allergic to it. Haven't been stung in like 12 years, so I try to err on the side of caution.
All right.
And my whole face was swollen yesterday. It's good.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, man. Well, we'll get into that in a little second. It seems our guest is ready, so we're going to bring him on here, test the audio.
Awesome.
What's up, Cody?
Can you guys hear me now?
There we go.
You can. How's it going?
Got him.
Thank you.
You finally got him.
Yeah, my girlfriend she has her own personal computer and a work computer. So we tried using her personal computer, which she just used for a doctor's conference call, and it worked just fine. I don't know why it's not working now. So.
No, well, we got solved. No biggie, but we're here now. That's what matters. But we're glad to have you on, dude. We appreciate you taking the time and appreciate you going through all the trouble to get on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Of course, man. But so we didn't get a chance to talk offline here because you were mute. So we're gonna get a chance to talk to you a little bit and talk about some of your different things going on with fishing now and then with your past. But before we get into it, there's some things that Andrew and I wanted to tell everybody, and that's first and foremost, thank you to our sponsors, Douglas Outdoors and Queen Tackle. Today we are running with the pod. It has been a wild ride today. I'll say that much, but it's gonna be a fun time tonight. We're glad to have you on, Cody, and let's get into it, man. How have you been? You been fishing since St. Clair?
No, I actually flew home Tuesday. I think it was the 25th. Got back. My boat I had at home I actually sold to one of my sponsors the next day, and so I haven't had a boat since. So I left my other boat back east. It's just easier rather than driving 3,000 miles home. So we're working on getting a boat for next year and doing that kind of stuff. I had to sell that one here to be able to do that. So I will get to use the boat here on Thursday, and then for like a week and a half, he's going to allow me to use it because I told him, I go, look, I wasn't expecting to sell this thing that soon, and I want to take my girlfriend and her son fishing just because I've been gone for 3 months and they haven't got to go and stuff like that. So he understood that. So he's going to let me use it for a week and a half, 2 weeks before I head back on the 23rd. So it's been good. We just got back from camping, relaxing, and that kind of stuff, which was much needed after that frantic week at St. Clair. So,
I'm sure,
hey, congrats again on the first top 10, right?
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
It seems like I've seen a few posts from anglers selling their boats now is because your season's running so late this year. Is that why guys are doing it now while you have a few weeks off? Or
I think what they're doing is what they'll do is they'll put them up for sale and then they'll get a deposit. They'll get that deposit. It'll hold the boat for the person. And then once the year's over, that person will get the boat. They'll take the wrap off and all that stuff. My boat that I'm using this year was provided by Triton and the Bass Nation. So after the Nation Championship, I have to give it back. So that's why I kind of started trying to get something lined up for next year with a boat company. So we'll see what happens there. Nothing's 100% in line yet. So we got a few things we got to do to my resume, updating it and that kind of stuff. And then we got to get it to them. So we'll see what happens.
Awesome. Nice, man. Well, I'm excited for you. That top 10 definitely helped you out. That's for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. It was that was a fun tournament. I mean, but deep down in my heart, I'm a smallmouth guy. I love largemouth fishing, but here in Oregon, smallmouth, I mean, that's probably 75% of what I fish is smallmouth. So I understand them, but St. Clair was weird. It fishes nothing like any place I've ever been. So it was almost dumb luck, but it wasn't. So
smallmouth. It's the way you can explain it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now back home, we talked a little bit. You live on basically the Columbia River, right?
Yeah, correct.
So how much different is it fishing the West Coast Columbia coming to the Great Lakes and fishing for smallmouth?
I'll give you this as an example. When I got to Champlain, it set up real similar without the exception of the current. I know it gets current when the wind blows, it'll blow the water down to one side or down to the other or that kind of stuff. But I could fish Champlain identically to the way I fish the Columbia River at home. I mean, I was throwing a spook over 8, actually not even 8, probably 6 to 12 feet of water. They were coming up out of the grass and hitting that. And then I was throwing a jerkbait, and I was completely comfortable with fishing that way. I just couldn't get them in the boat. Now the St. Lawrence fish is completely different than anything I've ever been to as well. I'm not used to drifting backwards. The current, everybody said the current was horrible and that kind of stuff, but I never, it's not any more than what we have here in the springtime, which I think we got more here in the springtime than was there when we were there. So it's just those little things, kind of figuring out what depth they're in and that kind of stuff. And, having somebody else to talk to is a huge help on, eliminating water and stuff like that and figuring out what depth to focus on and stuff like that. So being smallmouth or smallmouth, they're going to be on rock. They're going to be on bare spots in the grass. That stuff's all real similar to here. So, I mean, points and that kind of stuff. So I understand that part of it. The largemouth fishing in the South is completely different, but we won't get into that.
We can, but
yeah.
So, oh man.
So who do you do you travel with anybody on the Elite Series at the moment, or are you lone wolf in it?
I was traveling with Randy Pearson. He and I hooked up at the Nation Championship and started talking and stuff like that, and became pretty good friends. So we were in New York for almost 2 months and stayed together and that kind of stuff. So he's been a huge help getting my feet wet this year and that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's been a learning curve, but that part of it, having him has lessened the learning curve for me, being able to have somebody to bounce ideas off of and stuff like that. And somebody who knows a lot of these guys already. And, being able to talk to them and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, he's been a huge help this year. So
it's awesome. It's always good to have a wingman, basically. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So when you're, sorry, Bailey, go ahead.
I'm just saying this time you're going after female fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So backtracking a little bit, when you were in New York for 2 months, what lakes did you get to fish?
We fished Lake Placid, which we caught like 30 fish, but they were all 8 to 10 inches.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, that place set up weird. I mean, I caught one decent one that was like 2 3/4 on a spook, but I don't know, it's weird. High mountain lake, crystal clear. I'm sure there's good fish in there and stuff like that, but the map I had and stuff like that on my unit, you couldn't really tell. But we fished Champlain, and then we fished, I think it's called Scroon.
Up in the Adirondacks.
It's south on, I don't know, whatever that highway is, 85 or 75 or whatever that highway is that runs south towards Albany.
Got it.
It's right off of there. And we spent quite a bit of time there testing hooks and that kind of stuff. I mean, I think we fished it so much that the fish that we were catching off of this point moved, so we had to go find some other stuff. I mean, we caught some decent smallmouth out of there. So, I mean, it was definitely fun. And we stayed after Champlain, and I fished Champlain almost every day for the week and a half before we left to Michigan. So I got a good understanding of Champlain and how to catch them now and not lose them. So that'll help if we go back there.
Yeah, I've heard those fish are just mean.
It's crazy. I got some videos on my phone from my GoPro that you'll hook them, they'll jump. The first thing they do is jump. They'll jump 3 to 4 feet in the air. I mean, it's crazy. They could jump in the boat.
They're wild.
So it's nuts. They're a fun fish. I mean, they fight like heck for a lake smallmouth, and they are hotter than any fish I think I've ever caught. Even our fish here don't jump like that. So, I mean, getting them in the boat is not easy once you hook them. So,
no, all of our New York fish here have that first instinct. I don't know if what they're like in Oregon, but their first instinct, and like you can tell when you have a smallmouth because as soon as you hook into them, they're shooting straight up.
Yep.
Even on our Finger Lakes.
Yeah. No, ours don't do that for the most part. I would say ours are kind of a mix between like the St. Clair fish and the Champlain fish. They jump, but they don't jump that high, and they dig like the St. Clair fish. The St. Clair fish jump, but I mean, they barely come out of the water, and they like to stay down and dig. I know a lot of the times I couldn't tell whether it was a smallmouth or a drum until I saw it. So
interesting. Very interesting. So going back, because we're gonna dive into a whole bunch of that later, but I like to ask everybody new to the show this question, and it's just simple. You know, what was your first bass catch like? How did you get into bass fishing, and who's the one that introduced you to all of it, and the reason why you're sitting here now on the Elite Series and just got a top 10?
It started with my dad when we were kids. He had a bass boat. He fished the Bass Nation stuff. I mean, we went from like a 16-foot skeeter to an 18-foot skeeter to a 20-foot Ranger to a 21-foot Ranger. And then my brother and I got into racing motocross. So we kind of put fishing on the back burner. We still fish here and there. He sold the boats. We fish off the bank and stuff like that. But I mean, we have a small river where some more of my extended family lives, and we'd fish the bank. I mean, you could catch 100 fish a day. You'd catch a couple good ones, but I mean, you'd catch 12 to 15 inchers all day long. And, I mean, I have a lot of memories of fishing with my dad and stuff like that. So, I mean, I absolutely would not be here without him introducing even me and my brother to it. So, I mean, we went on family trips and stuff like that. So, and he, before he passed in March, he's up, and I got to this point, and he's like, you are twice as good as I ever was. And I mean, he kept telling me that over and over and over again. I have, he fished for years, and that meant a lot, him telling me that and stuff like that. And I mean, when I get into something, I get into it 110%. I mean, that's other than, family time and spending time with my girlfriend. I mean, everything revolves around fishing and trying to get just a little bit better than I was the day before. And I mean, I think I'm not cocky or anything like that, but I think that's helped me get to where I'm at today in my fishing, keeping those little things in the back of your head. So
heck yeah, dude. Of course. That's great. Well, dude, what was it? So obviously you made the elites through Bass Nation.
Mhm.
You know, what was the timeline leading up to that? You know, did you get into high school bass fishing, college? You know, what was it local clubs? How'd you do it?
We had college fishing here, but I never went to, I mean, we had University of Oregon and Oregon State. I never went to either one of those. So what I did is I joined a club, which was BASS affiliated. And then I started fishing the Oregon Bass Nation qualifiers, which we have 4 qualifiers. So this all started in 2018. We had 4 qualifiers. And I ended up winning. No, I didn't win one of those. I ended up, I think, 4th overall in points, I think is what it was.
Okay.
So from there, you go to regionals. So 2019, May, went to regionals at Lake Shasta in California. 3 days, started out the first day with 13 pounds, which is a good bag for there. I mean, that's like a 19 to a 20-pound bag any place else that has good fish. It's tough to catch that 13 to 15-pound range. So that set me up well for the next 2 days. It was all spotted bass. I didn't know what I had stumbled upon or anything like that. My girlfriend had taken me down there for my birthday like a month and a half prior to that. The water was low. So what I found when I was there for that. And I sat on, I fished 3 spots the whole time and went from 2nd to 3rd to 4th and qualified to go to the nation championship through there because they take the top angler from each state, which is a Western divisional. So I think there were 11 states. So they take the top boater and top non-boater and they go to nationals. So fast forward to nationals, November, I flew over to pre-fish beginning of October before cutoff and pre-fish for 4 days with a buddy of mine that lives over there and then another guy and that kind of stuff. We fished with like 3 or 4 different people just to kind of learn the lake and that kind of stuff. So we get back over for the nation championship. I had a feeling I was going to do okay, but I mean, I didn't think I was going to win the thing. I had 9 pounds, just over 9 pounds the first day. And second day I had 9 pounds, 14 ounces. And then barely squeaked in. I mean, like 2 ounces squeaked into the top 10. So I was sitting in 10th and ended up catching 13.2 the last day. And I told my girlfriend the night before, I go, I'm going to have to catch 13 or 14 pounds to win. I can't go any further backwards. So the only way I can go is up. So I went out. I knew I was getting my bigger bites on and finally put that in my hand at 10:30, 11 o'clock on the last day and proceeded to catch 7 fish that were all 2.5 to 3.5 or 4 pounds and pulled everything out I had and left for weigh-in 45 minutes early and sat on a spot and fished for, 15, 20 minutes before I headed back. So, I mean, it's a tough process. There's a lot of work that goes into it. It's the hardest way to get into it. And it's a 2-year process to get to the Elite Series if you win. And you just keep doing that if you don't get there, which I would have kept fishing the nation stuff and tried getting back there. So, I mean, it's a long process to get into it. But, I mean, did I ever think I would be here? Absolutely not. And without my girlfriend's support, I absolutely would not be where I'm at right now. So, I mean, she's behind the scenes, whether it's taking care of the house, taking care of the dogs, her son. I mean, everything, the house bills, the chores. I mean, all of that stuff. She's even helping get me sponsors, helping, do my resume and all that kind of stuff. So, it's a long process, but we did it and I have her support and that means the world to me. And that's what keeps me going forward. So.
Heck yeah, man. You see all those big names in fishing right now. And the only reason they're there is because their support system.
Yeah.
So you have a support system. Now you got to run away with it.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. You have to have that. I mean, my family was all on board with it. I had 2 friends that were there. One of them was fishing as a co-angler for Washington. And then my other buddy had just fished the FLW championship at Cumberland in Kentucky. And he calls me and goes, hey, I'm going to come over and watch weigh-in the first 2 days. and not knowing what was going to happen, he's like, "Oh, I might leave the third day of the morning of the third day and start heading back to Rayburn," because he had Rayburn in June. He fished the FLW tour, so he goes, "I might head back to Rayburn and pre-fish and that kind of stuff." And I go, "You're not going to stay and watch me win?" Just joking around and stuff like that. And they see me win, and both of them turn to her and go, "Are you going to let him fish the Elite Series?" And she looks at them and she's like, "Why wouldn't I?" So I mean, she was not going to hold me back from my dreams, and I mean, I can't thank her enough for that. So I mean, it's been huge.
Heck yeah, man. Well, I got a question then. So on your last day then, when you had 13 pounds, it sounds like you switched up what your presentation, not necessarily an area. You just kind of went to an area where you knew the bigger fish were at and just changed your presentation essentially.
Yeah. So I was fishing. My buddy flew down there from Washington. He fishes a co-angler, and then I had my other co-angler from Oregon with me. And all three of us pre-fished together up until the last pre-fish day. And he gets this Yozuri lipless crankbait out. It's a smaller one. I think it's like the 3/8 ounce one. And starts throwing around. 2 casts in a row, gets bit. I'm like, "Hey, I got the bigger one of those." Not thinking. Never threw it in practice. Nothing. And I had tied it on for the first day of the tournament. I think I caught my biggest fish the first day on it. The second day, I caught my biggest fish and my next biggest fish on it. So I knew in the back of my head I was getting a better than average bite on it. And so basically what I did is I just put it in my hand at about 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I knew where some stuff was. So I was throwing it over 20 to 25 feet of water, if that makes sense. And I wasn't letting it hit the bottom. Yeah. So this Hartwell's got cane piles in it, and it's a big long bamboo stick that's got a bush at the top of it. And the spots will get in it, the bait gets in it, so they get around the edge of it. So what I was doing is I had 7 or 8 of those things marked, and I was pulling up and making a bomb cast from a long ways away. And if you got near it, the water was clear enough. If you got near it with that thing, you were going to get bit. I lost a couple fish. I don't know whether they would have helped or not. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't make any difference at this point. But I mean, they were eating it. I had one that had it all the way down its throat. Like I had to get pliers to get it out. I wasn't sure the fish was going to stay alive. I mean, I've had a smallmouth eat it like that too, and I had one at Champlain eat it like that. And I was like, "Oh, this is going to be freaking awesome." And I never even threw it in the tournament because I ended up fishing a little bit different way. But it just, I didn't know what I had. My Marshall had my weight in at like just under 12 pounds, and I didn't weigh any of the fish but like one of them, and it was like 2 3/4. And I know my scale's off by just under 1/4 pound. So it was kind of a guessing game. And I got back, I look at Bass Track, and it shows me tied for the lead. And I'm like, holy crap, that's with less than what I have. I go, I know these guys are going to have more than what Bass Track says too. So, I just, that's one of my confidence things is throwing a lipless crankbait. So, I mean, I put it in my hand, and for the last 3.5 hours of the day, I never put it down. I didn't throw another rod. I put my drop shot rods away. I had that rod, and I think I had a swim bait on the deck, and that was it. And I never threw the swim bait. So
awesome, dude. That's sweet. We have a question here from one of the viewers, and it's from Wesley Wardlow, who mentioned he's a big fan of yours, and said, "I have a one-day college tournament in November on Hartwell." Said, "I know last year you won the nation championship there, but you had a major comeback like you just mentioned on days 2 and 3. So he said, for a one-day derb, would you go spots or would you go largemouth?"
Spots. Personally, that time of year, I would go all spots. Depending on water temperature and stuff like that, those cane piles are hard to find. For me, my graphs I was using on my boat here, they wouldn't show up on the graphs. You couldn't see them if you were to side scan them. That time of year, if you're going to side scan, I'd go side scan humps in 15 to 25 feet of water. If you find any timber that's laid down, drop shot is very good. I throw a pink worm. Pink worm with a white bottom. Spots absolutely love it. They will be in those cane piles, but I mean, they're everywhere on that lake, but you can't side scan them. You have to either go over the top of them with the 2D, or that's about it. So, I mean, they're hard to find, but you can go around some of the islands and the points and stuff like that and just throw a lipless around, or throw like a weightless Kitech around, let it sink for 5 seconds and then slow reel it back. They'll eat that too. So if I was going, that's what I would do. I mean, I caught fish shallow on a drop shot. So my baits were a drop shot. I did catch one on a jig, and I caught it directly underneath the boat, which was really weird. But and then a Carolina rig and that lipless crankbait. It's just a blue and chrome lipless crankbait that, I mean, it's something I have confidence at home. I know it was going to work there, and just, it worked. So, I mean, there's spots to be caught, and that time of year, the lake, beginning of November-ish, that lake will start turning over. So down towards the dam typically is where it turns over the latest. The water's going to be clearer down there, more stable. So for me personally, I would focus on mid-lake and down towards the dam at that point. So
cool. Well, there you go, Wesley. The champion has spoken. We have another question here real quick, and then we're going to get into a couple other topics. But
okay.
From Andre, who said, he asked, what was your biggest surprise about fishing Champlain in reference to techniques?
Just how tall the grass was. We don't have any of that grass at home. So our grass is a little bit different. So typically at home, I'm fishing 2 to 6, maybe 8 feet of water. Even in the summertime, they like the grass that we have here, but I mean, that grass will grow up and you'll see it 2 feet below the surface in 12 feet of water. Technique wise, I mean, I could fish it exactly like I did at home. I didn't figure out how to keep them buttoned up until after the fact, but, him and I actually fished together, and we went out and had a great day. I mean, he out of the back of my boat actually had probably 20 pounds just himself throwing a Carolina rig. So it was a blast to get a fish with him, but he made me look like I didn't know what I was doing. So, I mean, I knew I was around those types of fish, but I didn't know that they were that big. So, I mean, it was definitely fun, but, technique wise, I was completely comfortable fishing for those anyway that we were catching them, because I could fish for them exactly the same way I was here. Throw a tube, throw a drop shot, throw a spook, a jerk bait. A lot of the times you could throw a Kitech through there and get them to bite on a Kitech, but for whatever reason, that was not going. So, and I know they were biting a crankbait for some other guys, but I just never got into that. So I just kind of did my thing and what I had confidence in, and I just lost the fish to be able. My goal was to get a top 40, and I just lost the fish to get in the top 40. I mean, there's no excuses. I just didn't get them in the boat. They came off because they're crazy. But that place is phenomenal, and I hope we go back there.
Heck yeah, man. Andrew, you got anything for Cody?
Yeah, keep going. I'll think of something in a second. I'm just thinking smallmouth and how much they always screw you over. So,
Oh yeah,
especially when there's treble hooks involved, it's just not good.
yeah, exactly.
So, what's been like the biggest adjustment for you then? Being an Elite Series rookie and obviously coming through the Bass Nation, has there been an adjustment to how you've traveled and how you've fished in Bass Nation to now on the big stage on the Elite Series?
Absolutely. I've spent a lot more time idling, driving around, marking stuff, going back and fishing it later, and learning the electronic side of it. I know how to use them. I know how to see what's fish on them, but I don't graph around here at home hardly ever. I mean, I do here and there, but I mean, I've fished it not for so long, but I fish it for long enough that I have certain areas that I go to, and then I'll kind of expand on them and stuff like that. But I think the biggest thing was the graphing around and learning that kind of stuff and what to look for, like ledge fishing at Eufaula. I mean, there were fish on ledges, there were fish on brush piles, there were fish shallow. So, I mean, I just went in and fished my strength, and I just didn't have enough fish there. But I think that was the biggest learning curve for me, and the fact that I have no experience on these lakes. So I have to do all the research that I can possibly do before we go. Because a lot of these guys have years and years and years of experience on these lakes. So, I mean, I'm at a huge disadvantage when it comes to that. So, that's been the biggest curve for me on those, is learning the lakes and that kind of stuff. So
now, in your opinion, is there a time period where it's almost too early to start, researching, doing your pre-practice? Maybe it's, on your computer first, then you're traveling down a few months prior to do some pre-practice. Is there a time where you think it's too early because it might spin you out, you might overthink things? Or do you have like a set in stone plan when it comes to that?
One of the biggest pieces of advice that Randy had gave me coming into this was focus on one lake at a time. He goes, do not get too far ahead of yourself. He goes, one lake at a time. Do your research on the lake that's coming up next, and don't worry about the one after that. So focus on this one, and once that one's done, focus on the next one. And that's kind of been my mind frame going into this year. Is that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that was given to me, and that's helped me out a ton, because you can start researching every single lake, and then you're like, well, I don't remember what I found out on this one. I don't remember what I found out on this one. So then you got to go back and do it all over again. So it helps break them down a little bit better doing that. So
that's smart. Yeah. I'm glad they haven't announced, because I punched my bid to the Bass Nation Kayak National Championship, and I'm glad they haven't announced the lake yet. Now that you're saying that, because I know I would totally forget about all my fall tournaments.
Yeah,
I'll be researching for Texas in March, but that's pretty smart, because you probably have a lot of guys that are trying to do a bunch of things at once, and that spins you out completely, just like you mentioned.
Yeah,
and it gets them all confused, and they might misplace information with one body of water and might try to apply it to another when that's not where it belongs.
Yeah, so exactly.
Yeah. But, moving forward, though, are you excited for the fall swing? Because the elites haven't had a fall swing in a long time.
Yeah, no. I think they're going to be tough. Talking to some of the guys, they're not going to be easy. I mean, you're looking at 5 to, on a good day, 10 bites a day. And the way I fish, no matter how many bites I'm getting, I keep my head down and I fish. And every flip, if I'm throwing a frog, if I'm throwing a drop shot, like at St. Clair, I thought I was going to get bit every single time. And for me, that's what works for me, is I have to keep that in my mind, regardless of whether I get bit or not. Try not to get in my own head and get spun out and stuff like that. So, they're going to be tough. I think, fingers crossed, I can fish them the way I like to fish for largemouth. It's just finding the right areas that have the right quality of fish in them and that kind of stuff. Now, I'm excited we're going back to Guntersville, because that place kicked my butt at the Classic. I just never got on anything. I caught an 8.5 pounder in practice, and I was like, oh, they're going to be grouped up here. And I go back to the first day, I catch like a 4, I catch a 1.5 pounds, and I lose like a 5 at the side of the boat. And then I caught a bunch of short fish. I probably caught 11 or 12 fish. I didn't see that many fish all the practice. So I want to get revenge on that place, and I'm going to do everything in my power to do well there. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. I'm going to give it everything I got there, and let the outcome be what it is, and then move on to Santee Cooper from there. So we'll see what happens.
Heck yeah. So, is it safe to say that's the one you're most looking forward to, is Guntersville?
I guess those 3. Santee is scary with the amount of stumps and that kind of stuff that it's got in it. That one scares me more, not fishing wise, but taking my lower unit off.
Rest in peace to your new boat.
Yeah. Yeah. So that one worries me more on that side of it. I have an idea of what to do there. I got one guy I want to pick his brain about it. Cypress trees are completely new to me. I don't know anything about cypress trees and what makes one cypress tree different from the other. They all have knees that come out. Some of them stick up higher than others. And I know, the points and that kind of stuff usually will have fish on them. But I mean, there's other irregularities that hold them to that. I think those three are the ones I'm looking forward to. I'm definitely not looking forward to Lake Fork because talking to some of the guys that live in Texas, it's not going to be an easy tournament. So, I mean, it could be guys bringing in 3 fish and 2 fish and no fish and that kind of stuff. But these guys catch them everywhere we go, and you have to put your head down. You have to catch them to compete. So I'm just looking forward to getting back down there and going fishing again. So it'll be fun either way.
Heck yeah. Well, I hope for your sake you're not one of those 3, 2, or 0 fish.
Yeah. Yeah. That's been my downfall this year. I mean, St. Lawrence River, I brought 3 fish in the first day. St. John's, I brought 1 fish in the first day. Eufaula, I brought 4 fish in the second day. It's like, that was one of the other biggest things, is bringing in a limit every single time is necessary. I'd be a little bit further up in points had I brought even whether it's 6 pounds or 10 pounds, I'd be further up than what I am right now in the points and not be stressing about making the classic. So that's the biggest thing for me is not going out trying to win the tournament, just trying to catch a limit. So
yeah. Well, I think that's one thing that is kind of like a preconceived notion that a lot of people have, these amazing fisheries like a St. Clair or St. Lawrence, where people are like, how come these guys can come in without a limit on these fisheries that are supposed to be amazing? Like, yes, they are amazing. And sure, there's fish everywhere, but at the end of the day, you got to give them the bite. And some of those fish, especially in St. Lawrence, are very, very finicky.
Yep.
And right now, there's been a lot of chatter, and Andrew, you know this because you were up there this summer too. They are extremely pressured to what they're used to. They're tough to get to bite. So it's not easy, especially when you have an 80 boat field on that river trying to run that. It's tough.
Yeah. St. Lawrence, I had my opportunities for 5 fish the first day. I got 5 bites. I lost one at the side of the boat, and the other one I set into and it came off. So I mean, it's fishing, but that, like you said, that's the biggest thing. Bringing in a limit just for the point side of it is huge against these guys.
I hear you, man. I dropped, was it 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago now, Andrew? We had our Fed tournament up at St. Lawrence, and in practice, I dropped probably what was a potential personal best smallmouth. It was not fun. Not fun. Within hand reach.
You would think little baits and hooks would hook. They would get hooked every time, but they just, for whatever reason, just come off for no reason.
Magicians.
Yeah.
The car.
I had one drift that me and Quentin Capo were both doing. I guess he caught 25 pounds there the first day of the year before. And I pulled up there, didn't have a fish. It was 1 o'clock the first day, caught like a 4-pounder, then caught a 3, and then went to another spot and caught 1 and had to go back. I rotated those 2 spots the second day, ended up catching 7 fish and had 14 something. Had I known that the day before, I definitely would have had a limit. It may only have been 14 pounds, but I may have moved up in the standings even 5 or 6 spots at this point would have been big for me. So
it's a tough fishery, especially because that place is very wind affected. It's not like some of these lakes where you can kind of change your plan depending on the wind. But like we got up there in practice and we had an east at 20 wind at 20 miles an hour, and what it did pretty much was it slowed that surface current, but everything on the bottom was still ripping. So your boat wouldn't move, but your baits were moving, and it kind of made for it difficult for trying to set up and trying to figure out how the fish would set up. So it was super interesting how it worked, and it kind of made it adjust. And it's not a very fun adjustment to make.
No,
you're not blasting them, But at the end of the day, you're still learning, for future reference, how those fish might set up should you be able to learn and see how they change with that wind. So it's super interesting, but it's an amazing fishery during the right circumstance. But without that, it's very difficult.
Yeah. I learned that the hard way.
So. Heard that, man. Andrew, you got anything?
Just smallmouth fishing in nature, going back to the point of where they're so pressured. I think as a smallmouth guy, and I live on Lake Erie in Buffalo, and it's definitely not what it was 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And I think there's a multitude of things that are happening. One, I think they're very overpressured fish. Two, a lot of anglers don't know how to fizz and take care of the fish properly. So I think after we're releasing them, there's a really high mortality rate of those giant smallmouth. And then 3, when the wind blows east on a southwest current, they just do whatever they want and disappear. So especially the St. Lawrence, I was up there one day fishing with Bailey's friend Jake because I didn't take my boat with me. And I think it blew east, west, north, and southwest all in like a 4-hour period, depending on what drift we were on. So I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah, that's always fun to try to drift sideways or drift, when the wind picked up on us, what I would do is I put the trolling motor on like 2 to 3, and then I hit it every once in a while. It was kind of keeping me in place, but I'd hit it and it would kind of move me with the current so I could still drag my bait with the current. That and drift paddles, when the wind's blowing that way, the current, you can put them down and the current, it'll still pull you backwards with those drift paddles on there on the power poles. So I mean, those were big there as well. So
I think I saw a photo. You might have been the only guy with drift paddles there.
I think Takumi Ito had them on there too.
I didn't see a picture of his boat, but yeah. Now, is that something you like equate to fishing at the Columbia? Because you guys get huge wind out west. Like I've heard horror stories of the Columbia. So
yeah, April of 2019 at our first Bass Nation qualifier, we probably had 8 to 10 foot rollers at our first tournament. I didn't have power poles on my boat here that I just sold. So I had never had a chance to use them. So it took a little bit of an adjustment for me getting used to them there. But they would have been nice to have. I mean, that tournament, I wasn't taking any chances I was 10 to 15 miles from the ramp, and I came out of the backwater I was in because I went up and fished for largemouth. It was on the Columbia, and I came out of that backwater, and me and another guy had talked in there, and he goes, let's follow each other out and see if we can get back. Well, I only had 2 fish, so I was like, I don't really care if I make it back. I had like a 4.5 pounder and a 12-inch smallmouth. So we come out of there, and he's in front of me, and he goes down in one and completely disappears. And I can't see him. I'm going a little bit faster than he is, and you could not see him. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to come down on top of him or what. So we got out of that bay, which is kind of sketchy to get in and out of, even when it's calm. And I hung a right, went over to the Oregon bank, and hugged that bank all the way back to a different ramp. I told my non-boater, I was like, dude, we got to dump our fish. It goes, I'm not going to take the chance of getting back. I got regionals the next weekend. And I was like, I can't put your life in jeopardy or mine or the integrity of my boat going into regionals. So I made that call, and it ended up working out. I ended up winning the tournament the next day. So, I mean, it worked out for the best. So
heck yeah.
Well, glad you were safe.
Yeah.
Safety first.
Yes, absolutely.
I respect the hell out of that decision. Not only just safety wise, but also releasing fish. There's a lot of guys that won't care about the fish. The fish care and bring them in dead or alive.
Yeah.
If they die, whatever. But I respect the hell out of the decision being like, if I run back, I might not have a chance at it either way. So I might as well let them go, because if I do run, they're going to die. I respect the heck out of that decision.
Yeah. I mean, we had one guy blow his motor up and that stuff, and then we had another guy. His boat went into limp mode, and the thing completely filled with water. Oh. And luckily, he got it to the shore and was able to get it tied up and stuff like that and go back and get it later. But I mean, it was a disaster. The tournament director is actually one of my buddies, and he said after the fact, he goes, "We probably never should have sent you guys out in that." And he felt absolutely horrible. And I mean, I kind of know what he's coming from, not on that scale, but I was tournament director for our club here for a year, and trying to make those decisions safety wise for everybody and stuff like that. It's not an easy decision. So, I mean, it's tough. Like trip for us. I mean, having to decide, do we send these guys out in this? Or, I mean, yeah, we're the best in the world, and driving in that stuff, we all have a lot of experience in driving in it, but still it comes down to safety. So,
yeah.
Well, not only that, now they have cameras in almost every boat most of the time too. So you're not worried about just yourself and your equipment. You're also worried about another person in your boat.
Exactly. Or a marshal.
Or a marshal, yeah. So
That's
COVID threw the...
Yeah, that's a whole other added pressure, besides just yourself. That's tough.
Yeah.
Andrew, any questions for Cody and all of our viewers? If you guys got questions, get them in now before we let Cody go here.
So West Coast guys are finesse fanatics, right? Drop shot. So what would you say is your favorite technique? You went over the trap, and I'm guessing it's a drop shot, but what would you say is your favorite way to fish? And if you had to choose smallmouth on the Columbia or largemouth, where would you go first?
That all depends on the time of year, honestly, for me. My favorite technique, I don't know that I really have a favorite one, because I've kind of prided myself on learning a little bit of everything, and not that I'm good at all of it, but if I had a technique that I was going to go out on the Columbia right now, obviously I'm not going out there right now. We got 40-mile-an-hour winds right now, but if I was going to go out there right now, I'd be throwing a 3.8 or a 4.3 swim bait with a Buckeye light wire swim bait head, casting the thing as far as I can, 3/8 or a half ounce, fishing points and humps out there right now. I mean, if I can catch them doing that, I'm happy for the day. So that and a lipless crankbait, I'd go smallmouth in the springtime and in the fall. Early summer, I'll go largemouth because I love throwing a frog and a buzzbait. Those are good. I love flipping too. So, but smallmouth is huge for me. So, I mean, if I had a choice, it'd probably be throwing that swim bait. So,
sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. 100%. Well, Cody, we're gonna send you off with one more question here, and it's one that I like to ask everybody. And it is, if you could sit down, say, have a beer and a steak with any three people, so you could pick their minds, who would you invite and why? They don't have to be alive. They could be from the past, like way in the past.
And they don't have to be fishermen.
Yeah. Who would you invite?
Oh, man.
Love the same response every time.
I know one of them for sure would be Gerald Swindle.
Okay.
He's an absolute crack up. The guy's been around for years and years and years. I've talked to him a few times in the weigh-in line and that kind of stuff. The other two, I would say one would probably be Brandon Polinick. He, Northwest guy. I looked up to him for a long time, coming from the nation stuff and that kind of stuff. And then, man, I don't know who the third one would be. It's hard because you're naming guys that you looked up to and now you're fishing against them. And I mean, they're all just normal people now. So,
beat them up. Yeah.
I would honestly probably have to say like Hank Parker. Cause I remember getting up in the morning, watching his TV show in the morning and that kind of stuff with my dad and that kind of stuff. And, I think he'd be fun to have in the boat. So, probably those three guys would be fun to sit down and talk to. So,
yeah, I like that. Hank Parker, that's one of the ones I watched growing up as well. But
yeah.
It's TV for fishing now isn't what it was.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Well, you used to be able to tune into ESPN on like a Saturday morning, and it would run like your 30-minute shows, and you'd get a Bassmaster show for an hour, and then another like 2 hours of Bill Dance afterwards.
Yeah,
like when I was like 5 to 10 years old.
I remember watching Bill Dance and Hank Parker, or
Roland Martin.
Yep,
they would just all roll consecutively. It was comical, and right in the middle, you get a Bassmaster show.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Well, last question for you here. You being a West guy, are you going to be competing in the U.S. Open this year? I don't know when that's supposed to be.
No, I have thought about it, but it overlaps with the way they moved our tournaments this year. So that tournament is very tough the time of year that they have it. So I mean, I have a few friends that fish it and stuff like that, and I've gone down there and done well and that kind of stuff. But Randy was actually going to fish it, and then they moved the tournaments around and that kind of stuff. So he's not going to be able to. I don't think he's going to be able to fish it this year because we're going to be back east. So, but you know, I got buddies that fish it, and I've never really had the ambition to drive down there and fish it. It's like a 22-hour drive, and you know, seeing how many guys don't come in with a limit, and it takes 9 pounds a day to, you know, get inside the top 10 and that kind of stuff. But I would love to fish it one year, though. I think it would be fun. So, I mean, that may be in the cards sooner or later, as long as we stay where we're at in Oregon. So
nice. I like it. Well, we have one last question from a viewer here, and it says, Cody, have you fished the Tri-Cities area of Columbia? I've been fishing here about 1.5 years. I catch a lot of fish, but I have a hard time finding any big ones. Do you have any tips?
I haven't spent a lot of time up there. think I've probably spent a day and a half up there. It was actually when we went to trade one of our old boats in and get another one. So my brother and I went up and fished it. I mean, this time of year and then going into the fall, that magic range is anywhere from 10 to 20 feet of water. If you can find a flat off the end of an island, a point, Carolina rig works really well. Swim bait, I throw swim bait out and I'll drag it on the bottom. Sometimes I'll put it on a wobble head, throw a tube, just stuff like that. If it's slick calm, I'll put a spook in my hand and throw a spook all day long. I will not put it down. So, I mean, those, look for grass. You're going to look for sporadic grass. If you're going down a bank and you have a line of grass and it stops for 20 yards and then starts again and then stops again and starts again, I mean, they like a lot of that. And I look for banks that kind of go up and down, or humps out there, or, you know, stuff like that'll hold those fish this time of year. Current's big. I like fishing down current, so I'm bringing my bait with the current. That's a big deal for me. So just, I mean, the typical smallmouth stuff, points, humps, rock, that kind of stuff is always good up there. Now, I don't have a lot of experience, but the Columbia River is the Columbia River, so fish is real similar, but there's a lot more water up there to run through than there is down here. So, I mean, you got largemouth and smallmouth up there that can win a tournament on any given day. So it's definitely tough to figure out.
Awesome. I forgot to ask this question. I promise this is the last question for you.
You're good.
Are you a University of Oregon fan? Are you a Duck fan, or are you a Beavers fan?
Neither. If I had,
I'm
a Washington Husky fan.
Oh no! If I could turn my camera around, my whole wall of my room is all ducks.
Oh no!
And we're gonna end the podcast right here.
No, my dad went to school there for a couple of years. I've been a Husky fan since I was a kid. Nothing. The rest of my family that lives over in Eastern Oregon and stuff like that is 100% full on Oregon, diehard, bleed green and yellow. I love them all to death, but when it comes to football season, I won't even root. I won't even root for them if they're in a bowl game.
Oh,
so
man.
it's I like the Oregon State fans better.
Oh no!
So if I went into, say, I mean, I've gone to my fair share of Oregon and Washington games. So, like if I went into the University of Oregon Stadium wearing a Husky shirt, I wouldn't say I'd be afraid for my life, but I'd be afraid that I was going to get beat up. So, because my dad gone in there like, I don't know, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago. He had, because of my family being from like in Oregon a lot, he went in there with, I think, a Washington Husky hat on and then an Oregon shirt. And he was in the bathroom taking a leak, and the guy turns and looks at him and he goes, "You're really confused, aren't you?" So, I mean, I will remember that story for the rest of my life. But I mean, my dad was a huge family guy. You know, he was all of our friends in Eastern Oregon and stuff like that. So he supported both. But I mean, if I have to choose, I'm 100% a Washington Husky fan. So.
Well, first of all, sorry for your loss, but it sounds like he was a great dude, quite the sport fan.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, dude, I gotta say thank you for taking time out of your night.
Thank you again.
Had a blast. I probably won't ever have you on again because you're a Washington fan, but
yeah, thanks.
No, I'm just kidding. You're always welcome on the show, dude, and it was a fun time. And good luck coming up in the fall. We'll stay in touch and get after him, man.
Right on, guys. I appreciate you having me.
Best of luck the rest of the way.
Yeah, good luck to you two the rest of the year as well.
Appreciate it, man. Hopefully you'll do well, and I'll see you down there in Texas.
That's what I'm shooting for this year. So,
heck yeah, man. All right, take care.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right, bye. Dude, that was a blast.
Spilled the beans on a lot of stuff.
He did.
He brought some. I hope the listeners are taking notes.
I know. If you guys are from the West Coast that came in here because you saw Cody coming on, I mean, drop some Columbia hints right there for y'all. I mean, that was pretty good. Yeah, Spencer Watts right here just put in a comment saying Cody's our hometown hero.
That's awesome.
That's some high praise right there.
Oh yeah. So,
dude,
first things first. Congrats to your regional kayak bass tournament win. On Oneida, I know how bad you wanted that one and grinded. So, dude, it's awesome.
So I know we didn't get a chance to talk about this in the intro. Yeah, dude, I worked pretty. I've never worked so hard for a tournament before, and I remember texting you weeks ago telling you how bad I wanted it. Pretty much what happened was, so many of you may not know, there's Bassmaster Classic, and now that there is the Bass Nation Kayak Series, there is the Kayak National Championship. That is in conjunction with the Classic. So essentially on day one of the Bassmaster Classic, the top 10 of the Kayak National Championship walk on stage, kind of do the whole stage ordeal. And essentially I won our state championship here in New York and punched my bid to that national championship. So I'm very much looking forward to that, which is why I mentioned back in the podcast that I'm glad they haven't mentioned the lake name yet, because I would already be spiraling my way out, which I've already spent 2 hours today looking at random lakes in Texas and watching videos on them and looking at navionics, which I should probably stop because it's a waste of time. But
you have a bigger fish to fry right now. Douglas and Chameau Derby with the juice.
El Jefe. Me and El Jefe got a derb on Lake Ontario in 2 weeks. It's going to be a good one. It's going to take a big bag to win that one. That's for dang sure.
Is that a 2-dayer or is it a 1-dayer? It's a 1-dayer, right?
Just one day. Yeah, 1 day out of Chameau Bay. Knock on wood again. You know that weather works out. It's going to be interesting, dude. But what do you got?
You should be okay. I actually have. I think I have 4 in a row this weekend. Weekend after the 26th, and then October 3rd. It goes River, Upper River, Honeoye, Lower Niagara.
And then Cuco.
Yeah, November 7th. Well, then it goes Lower Niagara, then Douglas 24th, 25th on Lake Erie.
Birthday weekend
for you. And then Cuca on November 7th with Old Bailey here.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can figure something out for that one.
Dude, I'm so excited.
So yeah,
it's gonna be fuego. So I'm
hoping it blows 45 and it's just pissing rain all day, because that's how I like to fish that lake. So
okay, maybe not 45, maybe like 15. 15 would be.
I'll take. Yeah, 15's fine. And the one time I fished at that time of year, it blew 45 and rained all day, and we just lit their world on fire. So it was fun.
See, in 45 mile an hour winds, I like to feel my bites, you know.
Oh, you can feel them. You can feel them.
Just smash it. Just completely hammer it.
Oh, yeah. Like line jumps and everything in that wind. You're just like, oh my gosh. And they're all like 3 to 4 pound smallmouth. It's just a riot.
That's going to be sick. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, we got a ways away. But guys, especially our northern guys here, fall is upon us. You know, we've been getting some temps. You know, Saturday morning for the state championship, it was 51 degrees when I woke up at 4 in the morning. And it didn't get 60s until 8:30.
Yeah.
It was nice. I had bibs and a sweatshirt on for
my favorite time of year. Oh, yeah.
I love it. I hate sweating on the water. I cannot stand that. I love being cold. I don't know. I'm weird. I'm a northerner, but I'm sure a lot of people can relate. But, yeah, dude, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun fall. It's going to be an absolutely fun fall. Thank you, guys. Thank all of you for coming out and tuning into the podcast. Greatly.
Thank you. Thank you for all the questions and
yes,
making us work tonight. We greatly appreciate it, and all the West Coast guys that tuned in and the Champlain guys. So this is a good turnout, and we thank you.
And the West Coast guys are probably just finishing up dinner right now.
Probably like, we got to go. Cody's on.
Yep. Well, thank you guys for that all. You know, like our buddy Rich Lindgren at Hella Bass. Check out his stuff. Mentioned hit the thumbs up on your way out. Would greatly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed already, subscribe. You guys can also listen to the podcast. If you do, in case miss a Monday Night Live, you can tune into the podcast on some audio platforms such as like Apple, Anchor, Spotify, that sort of thing. And also, I got to plug it, dude, because I'm wearing it. The new Angler merch, or the Serious Angler merch. Link down below if you guys want to get some merchandise and rock it. Post a picture, tag us. We'll post it to a feed. Appreciate everybody. Andrew, you got anything before we click off here?
I am good, my friend.
All right. Thank you guys again for watching and listening. We'll see you guys next time.